Welcome to the Sci-Fi Continuum. I'm Stan, your narrator. Make sure you subscribe to our channel for more stories. Jacob Meridian was having a perfectly ordinary day of reckless heroics when his ship decided to betray him. One moment the sleek stellar rogue was gliding through the inky expanse of space, its engines humming like a contented cat, and the next a jarring explosion sent the entire vessel spiraling toward the surface of Enora 5, an uncharted jungle moon known for its deadly fauna and even deadlier mysteries. Alarms wailed, consoles flickered, and Jacob cursed a particularly inventive string of expletives as he wrestled with the controls. The ship's AICDI was infuriatingly calm as always. Brace for impact, Captain. Calculating odds of survival 177%. Thanks for the pep talk, CDI. Jacob snapped, gripping the controls tighter. The STE rogue screamed through the moon's dense atmosphere, trailing smoke and fire before slamming into the ground. With a bone-rattling crash, Jacob barely had time to unbuckle himself before the cockpit system shorted out in a shower of sparks crawling out of the wreckage. He groaned, wiping soot from his face. His trusty leather jacket, one of his only prized possessions, was singed. Great, he muttered. Just another Tuesday. He surveyed the surroundings. Towering glowing trees loomed over him, their branches pulsating with greenish light. The air was thick with humidity, carrying the faint aroma of something floral and intoxicating. Strange bioluminescent insects flitted about, casting shifting shadows on the jungle floor. It was beautiful in a way that screamed, "You'll probably die here." First order of business, he said to himself. Figure out what blew up my ship. Second order of business, don't get eaten. Jacob grabbed his utility belt from the wreckage, strapping it on with practiced ease. Armed with a multi-tool, a plasma pistol, and the kind of optimism only a fool could muster, he ventured into the jungle. The stellar rogue would need repairs, and he'd need resources, preferably the kind that didn't bite back. An hour into his trek, Jacob realized two things. One, the jungle was eerily quiet except for the occasional rustle of unseen creatures. And two, he wasn't alone. He'd caught glimpses of movement from the corner of his eye, a flash of blue, a flicker of gold. Whoever or whatever was following him was annoyingly good at staying out of sight. He stopped abruptly, pretending to adjust his belt. Then, in one smooth motion, he drew his plasma pistol and spun around. All right, you've been stalking me for the last half hour. Care to introduce yourself, or do I start shooting? From the shadows a figure emerged. Jacob's breath caught in his throat. She was stunning. Her skin was a luminous shade of sapphire blue, glowing faintly in the dim light. Golden hair cascaded down her back in soft waves, catching the light like molten metal. Her eyes were a piercing gold, sharp and calculating. She wore a white form-fitting outfit that left very little to the imagination, accented by intricate metallic patterns that seemed to pulse with energy. Her presence was both regal and dangerous, like a predator that enjoyed toying with its prey. You shouldn't be here, human, she said, her voice smooth and teasing. Her lips curled into a smirk that was equal parts amusement and warning. Enora 5 doesn't take kindly to outsiders. Jacob lowered his pistol slightly, though he didn't holster it. And you are? She stepped closer, her movements fluid and deliberate. Ivara, guardian of this moon and its secrets. Her golden eyes flicked over him, taking in his disheveled appearance. And you must be the fool who crashed that noisy contraption into my jungle. Captain Jacob Meridian, he replied, offering a lopsided grin. Explorer, adventurer, occasional savior of planets. Nice to meet you, AA. Her smirk deepened. You're either incredibly bold or impossibly stupid to speak to me like that, human. Jacob shrugged. Why not both? Ivara tilted her head, studying him. Then, with deliberate slowness, she extended a hand toward him. Jacob hesitated, eyeing her outstretched Fingers what no handshake, she teased. Afraid of a little touch, depends, is this the part where you vaporize me or something? Her laughter was soft and melodic. Oh, I don't need to, the nanits will take care of that if you're foolish enough to try. Nanits. She took another step closer, and Jacob was acutely aware of the faint hum emanating from her body, or perhaps it was from the air around her. My body is protected by a swarm of ancient nanits. They react to unworthy contact, disintegrating anything inconvenient. Her gaze dropped briefly to his hand, then back to his face. So look, all you want, human, but touching me comes with consequences. Jacob raised an eyebrow, his grin returning. Is that a challenge? It's a warning, she said, though her tone suggested she wouldn't mind seeing him test it. One you do well to heed, despite of Ara's cryptic warnings and obvious disdain for his presence. She didn't stop him when he resumed his search for resources. In fact, she seemed content to shadow him, always staying just close enough to make her presence known. Jacob couldn't decide if she was protecting him from the jungle or simply waiting for it to kill him. So what's the deal with this moon? He asked, cutting through a dense thicket with his multi-tool. Why so secretive? Enora 5 is home to one of the most powerful energy cores in the galaxy. Evera said, her voice drifting from somewhere behind him. A relic of my people's ancestors. It's the reason this moon thrives the way it does, and you're the guardian of this core. Correct. My duty is to ensure no one, especially reckless humans, disturbs it. Jacob glanced over his shoulder, catching her watching him with those intense golden eyes. You don't seem to be doing a great job of stopping me. Eva's lips curved into a sly smile. If you were truly a threat, you'd already be dead. Comforting, Jacob muttered as they pressed deeper into the jungle. The air grew thicker, the bioluminescence of the foliage casting eerie shadows. Jacob couldn't shake the feeling that the moon itself was alive, watching him through the eyes of its guardian. Eva's presence didn't help. She moved with an almost predatory grace, her every step deliberate and silent. When they reached a clearing, Jacob paused, taking in the sight before him. In the center of the glade stood a massive crystalline structure, glowing faintly with an otherworldly light. It pulsed rhythmically like a heartbeat. The power core, he guessed. Evera nodded. The heart of Enora 5, and the reason you must leave my ship's in pieces, sweetheart. Not much chance of that happening without a little help. She arched an elegant eyebrow. And you expect me to help you? Well, you're the one who keeps following me around. Found, he pointed out. Evera's smirk returned. Fair enough, but I hope you understand, Jacob. Meridian help comes at a price. I'm listening, he said, leaning casually against a tree, her gaze locked onto his, the intensity of her golden eyes making his heart skip a beat. You'll do exactly as I say, no questions, no improvisation. Do that and I might consider sparing your life. Jacob chuckled, folding his arms. You're lucky I've got a thing for dangerous women. Evera rolled her eyes, but there was a glimmer of amusement behind them. You're going to regret that. Human. Jacob knew better than to let his guard down entirely, but he couldn't deny the electric charge that coursed through him as Evera drew closer. Her voice, smooth as starfire, was a deadly invitation he didn't fully trust yet. Beneath her calculated grace and sly smiles there was something else. Curiosity. It mirrored his own. So what will it be, human? Evera asked, her tone laced with feigned indifference. Do you dare touch what you desire? He met her gaze, the weight of her unspoken challenge pulling him in. The Quinetta power core shimmered faintly on the pedestal behind her, its soft hum resonating through the chamber. It was so close, and yet every instinct screamed that Evera was the true prize and the true danger. You said there'd be consequences, Jacob replied, a smirk curling on his lips, but you didn't say I couldn't handle them. Evera's laughter was a melody of amusement and disbelief. Such bravado, perhaps that's why humans are so captivating. She stepped closer, until only a breath of air separated them. Very well, Jacob, if you want the power core, you'll have to win it from me. Jacob arched a brow. And how exactly do I do that? Her golden eyes glittered mischievously. By proving you can be trusted with it. It sounded simple, but Jacob could feel the layers of meaning beneath her words. This wasn't about the power core alone, it was about trust, risk, and the unspoken tension that had been building between them since the moment they locked eyes. Let's say I play your game, he said. What's in it for you? Evert's lips curled into a smile, both wicked and inviting. Perhaps I too am curious about these legendary human qualities: your daring, your resourcefulness, your willingness to take chances. Her gaze dropped briefly to his mouth before meeting his eyes again. So, Jacob Phoenix, do we have a deal? Before he could overthink, Jacob closed the distance between them. His hand brushed hers, not a full touch but enough to test the boundaries of her warning. Her skin was warm, almost electric, and she didn't pull away. We do, he said. Their chemistry was undeniable, and Avara led him deeper into the chamber, where crystalline walls pulsed with light, and shadows danced like living beings. They spoke, part challenge, part flirtation, as Avara tested Jacob's resolve. Every word, every touch of their gazes was a push and pull, a negotiation of boundaries and desires. You know, Jacob said at one point, leaning against a smooth pillar, humans are pretty good at improvising. Avara tilted her head, intrigued. Is that so? Absolutely. We might not have venomous nails or glowing skin, but we know how to work with what we've got. Show me then, she whispered, her voice soft but daring. Jacob didn't need further invitation. He stepped toward her, his hands hovering just over her shoulders, waiting for her to push him away or pull him closer. To his surprise and relief, she leaned in, her expression shifting from playful to intent. The kiss they shared wasn't just a meeting of lips, but a clash of worlds, full of curiosity, tension, and surrender. The room seemed to pulse around them, the crystalline walls responding to their union. Avara's hands moved to rest lightly on his chest, her touch is elect. As her presence, the air between them grew charged, and the boundaries that had held them apart dissolved into the moment. Their breaths quickened, and the world beyond the glowing chamber seemed to fade. Jacob's fingers traced the edge of her jaw, his touch reverent yet unyielding. She met him with equal fervor, her golden eyes burning as her fingers curled against him, pulling him closer. Still, the atmosphere was thick with heat and unspoken promises as they explored the uncharted territory of trust and desire. Avara let out a soft, almost inaudible sigh as she leaned into him fully, her barriers crumbling. They moved together as if drawn by an invisible force, their connection as raw as it was undeniable. For a fleeting moment, Jacob forgot about the Kineta core, the risks, and the tenuous alliance they shared. All that mattered was the Hein, now the electric pull between them, and the understanding that this was as much a battle as it was a surrender. When they finally pulled apart, the glow in Avara's eyes had softened, replaced by something far more vulnerable and intimate. Her hand lingered on his cheek for a moment before she stepped back, regaining her composure. Jacob's heart was still racing, but his resolve was sharper than ever. Avara's hand rested on the Quinetta power core, her expression unreadable. You surprise me, human, she said, finally lifting the core from its pedestal. It floated lightly, suspended between her fingers as if weightless. You've proven bolder than I expected, and bolder still to think you could walk away unscathed. Jacob smirked, though he felt the weight of her words. Guess I'll have to live with the scars. She moved closer, holding the core out to him. Here, she said, her voice low. Take it, but remember, what I've given you doesn't come without expectation. As Jacob reached for the core, her fingers brushed his again, sending a jolt Up his arm he met her gaze, and for a moment the chamber fell silent, the hum of the core dimming beneath the weight of unspoken words. Her touch lingered longer than it should have, and he wondered if this was her way of marking him, not with claws or venom but with something far more lasting. The core floated into Jacob's hands and he held it tightly. You really trust me with this? Eva's lips curved into a small, almost sad smile. Trust is a dangerous thing, Jacob. Phoenix, perhaps that's why it's so rare. The crystalline walls of the chamber pulsed faintly as if echoing her sentiment. Jacob stepped back, the core humming softly in his grip, yet even as he moved toward his ship he felt the pull of her presence, the magnetic force of someone who had become far more than an adversary. The short walk to the ship felt longer than it should have. Jacob climbed the ramp and turned back. One last time Ia stood silhouetted in the glowing chamber, her golden eyes fixed on him. The weight of her gaze was almost too much to bear, but he refused to look away. Instead he lifted the core slightly, a silent acknowledgement of what they'd shared and what he was taking with him. Don't make me regret this, she called out, her voice carrying a mix of warning and something softer. I'll do my best, he replied, flashing her his trademark grin. The ship's engines roared to life as he installed the keen-eater core. Energy coursed through the vessel systems, lighting up one by one. The ship shuttered as it prepared for takeoff, and Jacob's heart raced, not just from the thrill of escape but from the lingering imprint of Ivara's touch and the unshakable feeling that he was leaving something behind. As the ship lifted off, Jacob glanced out the viewport. Ivara's figure grew smaller, but her presence loomed large in his mind. The galaxy stretched out before him, vast and unpredictable, but he knew one thing for certain: he'd crossed paths with someone who had changed the course of his life in ways he couldn't yet comprehend. The Kana core pulsed steadily, its energy stabilizing the ship. Jacob leaned back in his chair, a satisfied smirk playing on his lips. The mission was a success, but the true victory was more complicated and far more dangerous. Somewhere out there Ivara remained a force as enigmatic as the stars themselves, and as Jacob shot into the expanse of space he couldn't help but wonder if their paths would cross again, not as adversaries but as something far more unpredictable.